Not gonna lie, this episode was pretty lackluster. I mean, what do we even really get? I mean, we got a preacher who used to be a teacher, but is now only concerned with impeachers, so he's got to keep his pimp hand strong, and hopefully that will teach her. Humans taste like chicken and venison. Joel breaks many Geneva Convention laws by using an interrogation method that's a bit more hands-on than Chinese water torture. And in the end, the preacher, who used to be a teacher, gets tired of being a leader, so he grabs the cleaver instead of a heater, so he can beat her then eat her. Hello, I'm Mr.LetsGame. I do gaming reviews, analysis, and on occasion television reviews. So if you like what you're watching, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, yada yada, all that. Okay, and without any further ado, let's get right into this. So right off of the bat, it starts with this like religion bad type angle, which I mean we've seen in pretty much almost everything that Hollywood has produced nowadays. And I mean, if this was its own thing, I'd say whatever. But in the game, this wasn't even really that much of a thing. I mean, I actually stress tested David's dialogue by letting him say as much as possible. And in the game, he never really mentioned anything too religious-y. I mean, yeah, he believed everything happened for a reason, but that's really not the same. I mean, I know all sorts of dudes believe in that. Christians, Buddhists, even Rastafarians. Anyways, he's giving some bumpkiss ass preaching to these bumpkiss ass people, and one of them starts crying, and he basically tells her in much kinder words to shut the fuck up and stop crying like a little bitch. We then get to see David and James have a little talk here. James seems to be losing his faith in David, which I guess is kind of an interesting angle. I just thought it was kind of cool that the voice actor of Joel, Troy Baker, plays James in the TV adaptation. Anyways, Ellie's taking care of Joel here, but she sees that he's obviously getting worse, so she goes out to go and search for some better food to give him. And while trying to creep up on this rabbit, she accidentally busts ass. And you know, I thought this would have been actually a really good point to sort of have her like break down a little bit. You know, like, I think it would have been kind of cool if she would have just had kind of broken here and just kind of cried to herself. Because essentially the person that she loves most is inside this house, and he has an infection. So his odds of survival are really not the best right now. But then, yeah, she would just kind of pick herself back up and dust herself off. And I think it would have been a really good scene to show her kind of pushing herself along. Anyways, Ellie actually manages to pop like a 10-point deer, but David and James make it to the body first and are just about to haul it off when Ellie confronts them. They manage to strike a deal with each other, the deer's body, in exchange for some medicine. So Ellie and David take the deer into this like sheltered area while James goes off and gets the medicine for them. I know this guy's name is James, but I'm just going to call him Buddy Boy because that's what Ellie calls him. I do admit I do kind of like how tactical Ellie is here when she actually pulls back the bolt a couple times to pop out all the shells just so that they can't pick up the guns and ambush her. Anyways, inside the sheltered area, David and Ellie start to get to know each other a little bit. You know, your typical exposition. We learn that David once was a teacher, but then he decided to be a preacher after the world went to shit. And you think if they're doing this religion bad sort of narrative, and with it being The Last of Us kind of humanizing the villains, they would kind of explain why he became a preacher, but he actually gives literally no explanation for this. Also, this part in the game had you fighting a shit ton of infected, including a bloater. And I get it, you know, they wanted to be a bit more realistic, but that scene kind of did have a little bit more of a purpose because they actually bonded over their shared experience of nearly dying there. Anyways, he basically tells her that he knows that her and Joel were the ones that killed one of their members in the last episode, but that he's strangely alright with it. So alright with it that he even tells Buddy Boy to lower his weapon when he comes through the door, and has him give her the medicine, which she then runs off to treat Joel with. It then actually shows the perspective of the camp, and we see the cooks are in the kitchen preparing their meal for the day when these guys come in with a big old slab of meat and put it on the countertop. And when they ask what type of meat this is, he just looks at them and says,
"What is it?"
Venison.
Which, I mean, just listen to this dude. Like, is that not the most sus way to say that that's human flesh? Like, come on. Also, maybe it's just me, but does this chick not look a little bit like Mel from part 2? Like, I'm not gonna lie, that actually would be kind of a cool connection if she was actually Mel from The Wolves. Anyways, David makes it back just in time before they start eating, showing them that he just got them a big old deer and that they'll all be eating well tonight, even though they just got served with a shit ton of meat and they know they haven't been able to find any meat for a couple of days, and they know their homeboy just died like a day or two ago. And you can kind of see some of the people are piecing it together a little bit, but they don't really seem to mind. Anyways, David says that he's going to take a couple of men out the next day to go track down Joel and Ellie. And the same girl that was crying earlier in the episode suggests that he should just kill both of them. And he walks up to her and Mac Daddy slaps the shit out this bitch. He relays to her that she should only speak when spoken to. He basically tells her that he's her new father now and to call him daddy. I will admit it actually does kind of give us this creepy ass scene. All you hear is just spoons smacking against bowls, frantically eating the soup. And you kind of see James is like struggling to stomach what he's doing, knowing that he's eating human flesh. So I gotta admit that actually was a good touch. Anyways, we wake up the next morning to Ellie giving Joel his second dose of medication. And she's giving him like quite a lot too. But this is the only 2 doses that she ever gives him. Which, like, I mean, I guess you could be cured in like 2 doses, depending how bad it is. But I guess antibiotic resistance isn't necessarily a priority for them. Ellie then spots Buddy Boy and the crew coming to creep up on them. So she gives Joel a knife and then uses herself as a distraction while she rides in the opposite direction. Buddy Boy ends up putting a bullet in Ellie's horse, causing her to just eat shit, and I gotta admit it actually did look a little funny. But right before they murk her, David stops them, and he tells them to keep searching for Joel while he takes Ellie back to their base. Anyways, this guy comes down looking for Joel, and he's actually able to solid snake his way and get a stealth kill off on this. Like, let me just break this down for you, okay? So, like, they're walking in the basement here, right? And, like, right here, this is where he's supposed to be hiding. Like, right there, that's where he's supposed to be hiding. Like, you're telling me he hid his big ass behind, like, this small-ass water heater here? I mean, don't get me wrong, that's probably what I would have done. But there's no way he could have done that with the frame that he has. Anyways, the stealth kill is actually kind of brutal. I mean, goddamn, they really didn't have to draw it out for that long, but they did. Anyways, Ellie wakes back up in David's custody, and he tries to woo her over to the dark side. But Ellie really ain't listening at this point. It then cuts back to Joel, who's managed to hogtie 2 guys. But before this can turn into a Brazzers skit, he does the same interrogation method that he does in the game. Although I will just say that in the game, it was a lot more badass when he did it. And I don't know, the badassness, in my opinion, is maybe like 70% there. But I don't know, it's just not like as impactful, and he just doesn't have like that bass behind his voice that Troy Baker did when he was doing it. Also, I think it would have been cool if instead of just cutting to black when he comes down, if they would have done it exactly how the video game did it, where you actually see the pipe connecting with the guy's face and then it cuts to black. I don't know, just personal opinion. I think it just would have been a lot better. It's just something where, you know, the audience would have gone like, ooh, that's gotta hurt type thing. I don't know. Although he is a lot more like physical with these guys, like goddamn, like hair pulling, holy shit, maybe this is a Brazzers clip. Anyways, it cuts back to Ellie, who's trying to figure out ways to escape when David comes in with a peace offering, giving her some food. but she ain't looking for none of that meat with a helping of human next to it. So she kind of kicks that shit across the floor. And David assures her that he only did what he had to do to feed his people, which, I mean, is kind of a messed up reality. I mean, these things do kind of happen in extreme survival situations. So it's not necessarily that far off from reality. Although, because they're a cult, it makes it bad. Why am I defending cannibalism? What? No. Whatever. Just fuck these guys, alright? They're fucked up on multiple levels, okay? David says that he feels like he sees a lot of himself in Ellie, and that she's got a dark side to her just like he does. I know this is setting up for season 2, especially when they get into part 2 territory, but like, they literally just met. Like, this is literally the second time they're meeting, and he's known her for probably all of about less than 2 hours. Like, come on, man. He also gives some sort of like half-hearted exposition, how he thinks the cordyceps are the same as humanity. They fight for their survival and they try to spread their love or some shit. I don't know. I think the religious aspects were extremely underbaked. They should have just had gone with the cannibalistic group like they did in the original game. I mean, take religion out of the story and this literally makes no difference at all to the story, because, I mean, it wasn't even in the game, and the game is arguably better for it.
Imagine the life we could build.
I'm like, goddamn, you dirty bitch, you dirty bitch, you dirty bitch.
Anyway, she's absolutely repulsed by this, so she breaks his damn finger and tries to go for the keys, but it doesn't work out. So now she's got to look forward to getting chopped up. Joel comes across a shack along his warpath, and he finds Ellie's dead horse in there, as well as a bunch of human cadavers that have their guts ripped open. So I guess we can see where they've been getting the meat from. Anyways, it switches back to Ellie, and they're about to murk her ass, so she bites David and tells him that she's infected. And James is kind of looking at him a little weird, but before they have anything to question, Ellie kills James and runs the hell out of there. This role was wasted on you, Troy. Who knows? Maybe in season 2 they'll bring you back as Danny or some shit.
Holy shit, it's Danny.
Anyways, David gets pissed off, so he 1v1s Ellie, and she throws this fiery stick at him, and it manages to catch the chow hall on fire. So they have now met the basic minimum requirements for what the game has done. Anyways, he starts bad guy monologuing while he's got the cleaver in his hand, just saying a bunch of generic bad guy stuff, really. It is kind of similar to what he said in the video game, but I don't know, the video game just kind of did it better in my opinion. I actually think this scene maybe would have been a little bit more interesting if you never actually saw it from Ellie's perspective. Like if the camera was like really tight on David the entire time and it was just like one giant long take. And maybe like in the background when David had his back turned, you could see Ellie like popping out and like grabbing a knife or something. I don't know. I think that kind of would have been a cool scenic shot to do. Anyway, she goes and mortally wounds him, but then he pins her down and, tries to do stuff to her, which, I mean, it's like, what the fuck? Like, did this guy really think he could get a quickie in? Like, you got a literal hole in the side of you, man. Ain't no blood pressure gonna be going down there. Anyways, Ellie grabs the cleaver that's next to her head, which David, for some reason, did not see. I mean, in the video game, it maybe made a little bit more sense because, as you can see, it's kind of like hidden underneath a chair. But, like right here, like look at that. There is like no way you could not see the cleaver there. Like, come on. I'm just saying. Anyways, so she hacks David to bits, and interestingly enough, Joel actually doesn't come in and pull her off of him like he does in the video game. I thought this was such a weird thing, because that's like a very impactful moment right there. where he actually finds her in the middle of her most bloodiest moment yet, and he finally calls her baby girl, the name that he used to call Sarah back in the day. And I don't know, it just kind of feels like a little bit of the impact of this moment is taken away from that. Like, in the video game here, as you can see, it's a pretty intense scene, the fire's still burning around them, and David's blood is still fresh on her face. I mean, she's literally hacking David's face into a pulp, and he actually, has to yank her off of him. And then when he's comforting her, you actually don't hear what he says after he says the word baby girl, because it really doesn't matter what he says. It just drowns out the sound, and all you can hear is the instrumental, which I think was a good touch because we didn't need to hear what he said next. We already knew what they were saying to each other. What I like about this episode? I don't know, man. I mean, I guess I did kind of like how Troy Baker got a little bit of screen time in this. I do like how they kind of flesh out David's encampment a little bit. Like, you actually see their reactions to the crazy shit that David does. But yeah, I mean, other than that, everything else just kind of annoyed me. Like I said a little bit before, it just feels like the intensity or the coolness or whatever the factor that made the scene great, it's dumbed down to like 70%. I don't know, it just feels really weird. I mean, literally, if they just put in the extra 30% more emotion into a scene, it actually would be pretty good. I don't know why they're kind of more reserved with their emotions. I don't get why they're kind of more reserved a bit with their emotions, or why they just kind of sound a little weird when they read off lines. And then worst of all, they don't have no clickers at all in this episode. I was actually a little bit excited to know that this episode was coming around and that we would see a little bit of some infected. But no, we didn't get anything. I gotta admit, I was actually a little disappointed. But whatever, I get it. They can't have the budget to, have clickers and infected in there all the time, but still. I don't know, I was just kind of really underwhelmed by this episode. I mean, if I had to give it a ranking right now, I would have to say 5. I'm very tempted to give it a 4. I really want to give it a 4, but there was some interesting bits and some new additions that I did actually appreciate, as I've explained before. Some of those scenes I think were actually pretty cool. But yeah, this is the penultimate episode, and it's kind of left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. So hopefully the finale can really bring in the thunder here, because I'm not gonna lie, it's I don't know. I just don't like it. Like I said, all these episodes are at least okay. They're not bad television episodes. And I know some people who haven't played the video game and this is their first exposure to the series. And they actually think it's really good, which I don't blame them. Because if they haven't seen the original source material, then I can't really fault them for that. Because I can even imagine at this point, if I was someone coming in new to the series and this was my first exposure to it, I would actually like this as well. If there's one thing I've learned, especially from HBO, is that the finale of a show can make or break your whole series. So I guess we will just have to wait with bated breath until episode 9 rears its beautiful or ugly head. Anyways, so channel updates. Like I said before in the last one, I'm really trying to get these videos pumped out for The Last of Us. They kind of don't really seem to be doing all that well, with the algorithm. So I don't know, I might just, stick to video games or only cover something if it's extremely popular. I don't know, maybe I'm just not using the right keyword searches or something. But regardless, I'm going to try to get the Dead Space review out as quickly as I can. And then after that, as of right now, I'm still working on my Resident Evil 2 versus Resident Evil 4 Original versus Resident Evil 4 Remake. And I think it is going to be an amazing review. I mean, I'm playing through Resident Evil 2 Remake, and it is just so much fun. And they recently dropped the Resident Evil 4 Remake gameplay trailer. I mean, it seems like they took everything that was a little fucking annoying about the last game, and they made all those problems go away. Because, like, for instance, in Resident Evil 4, I love how you can pop a dude in the head, and then you can run up and roundhouse kick them. And it kind of gives you a little bit of breathing room and a reward for being a good shot. I don't know. I'm just really interested to see how they sort of mix these two games together. Because Resident Evil 2 Remake definitely has a completely different combat system than the original Resident Evil 4 does. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting video. I can't wait to bring it to you guys. Real quick before I go, I did make a review on The Last of Us Part 2. I know I plug it into like every one of my videos, but I put in a lot of time and effort on it. I mean, I know putting in time and effort doesn't really necessarily make it good, but you know, I think it's a good video, especially if you're into long form content. So, you know, if you like long form content and you like The Last of Us Part 2, or you hate The Last of Us Part 2, I promise you'll like it. Anyways, with all that being said, my name is Mr.LetsGame, and I hope you all have a good one. Bye-bye.